He's a political zombie if he does not offer a defense to this that's credible.
And if anybody knows how to defend themselves against this kind of salacious rumor, it is Lindsey Graham. Or should I say, you know what, I ain't even gonna say it. Welcome to the latest edition of Who Raised Y'all? My name is Reese Waters. This is where we put a spotlight on those special individuals that are doing their part to make our country worse. You know, the kind of people that you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates. Today's honoree, Senator Lindsey Graham. And you know what? Let's go ahead and throw in the entire voter suppression apparatus of the GOP. Now, there are two kinds of ops in this world. The kind who don't know any better. That's just how they was raised. And quite frankly, we just have to, as a society, accept that these people are going to exist. Then there are those who absolutely know better. The kind of ops who will call out the violations of the Constitution that are implicit with every word that comes out of a certain gentleman's mouth on one hand, and then on the other hand, help him get back into the White House. It kind of reminds me of those ladies who used to come on Maury. He ain't no good, Maury. He don't got no job. He just sit at home and play video games. He don't clean the house. He don't even wash. And he won't stay faithful. He ain't nothing but a dog. Well, how long y'all been together? We've been married 12 years. Yeah, I just had our 5th child. Enter Lindsey Graham, who has been dog walked by Donald Trump and his MAGA sycophants in ways that would make Bill Barr feel bad.
He responded in response to you saying you'd vote for the Republican ticket. Wow, former AG Bill Barr, who let a lot of great people down by not investigating voter fraud in our country, has just endorsed me for president despite the fact that I called him weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, and lazy. Based on the fact that I greatly appreciate his wholehearted endorsement, I am removing the word lethargic from my statement. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah. It's classic Trump.
Yet this is how he chooses to spend his time leading up to the election.
Certainly no secret that Jim Pillen wants to change the way Nebraska dishes out its electoral college votes. He has made it very clear that he will call a special session, and he's been trying to drum up support for a while now.
Just last week, he said he didn't have the votes he needed. Aside from Maine, we're the only state to divvy up those votes, and it appears the push to move away from that is intensifying. Last night, we were tipped off that South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham would be in Lincoln to meet with some of our state senators. Our reporter staked out outside of the governor's mansion and spotted a number of senators coming and going and confirmed that Graham had in fact made the trip.
That's right. Every 4 years, all the rest of the states just get to be one color, and there goes Nebraska with its one dot right in the middle. I tell you, there's a whole lot of group projects I wish I could Nebraska my way out of. I didn't even know that was a possibility. I know Atlanta, Georgia gotta be furious. Oh wait, they're gonna take Georgia anyway. Now, I've spoken about this before in a few of my different videos. I've used the burger joint analogy. You can check out those videos with regards to what's going on in Texas and what's happening in North Carolina. But just the very idea that as opposed to trying to win over votes, you're going to try and rig the way that the votes are tallied, not only speaks to how lackluster and impotent your ability to woo voters is, it also speaks to your desperation. Oh yeah, I smell scared.
Let's discuss Senator Lindsey Graham's visit to Nebraska this week in regards to pushing for a winner-take-all system when it comes to the state's 5 electoral votes. 5 Republican lawmakers from Nebraska are also pushing for this, but remind us which states sort of do this hybrid and why and what it would take for that to change.
Well, Nebraska, too. The Nebraska 2nd District has one electoral vote. And that area, that blue dot, if you will, is a very more traditionally Democratic voting section of a very red state. But that one electoral vote is part of one of the paths to 270 on the electoral map for the Harris campaign. And if it is a close race, and we do see in the polling data that we've seen this week in these key battleground states, it could, I want to emphasize could, come down to one electoral vote. Therefore, by changing that, by eradicating, if you will, that one blue dot, that one electoral vote, it gives the Republicans and Trump an advantage on that map. So that's why there's been such an interest by Trump allies. That's why we've seen Senator Graham, who is an advisor to the former president, go down there. And I think that that's something that we need to watch, because if that changes, it does it's a little bit like Jenga in terms of the strategic map for Democrats.
First off, my apologies to Maine. I had forgotten about Maine. Like the rest of us always forget about Maine. My bad. I hear the water's delicious. And doesn't this sound about right? Like the kind of campaign that would fly around Laura Loomer and not distance themselves from Mark Robinson would be the same kind of campaign that would spend valuable time and energy trying to flip Nebraska 2's one electoral vote while they're in desperate trouble in North Carolina and Georgia. What? Are those Haitians in Florida? Oh, looks like justice. Now, as sad, embarrassing, and decrepit as this, Oh, yeah, I went with Carolina because of Lindsey Graham. Do you have a Nebraska jersey? Come on. No, nobody like Tommy Frazier that much. Now, as sad and decrepit as this would be for any other person to do, it's particularly sad and shameful for Lindsey Graham, especially considering, the way that MAGA sees him. I haven't actually even heard or seen Lindsey Graham since I don't know when. This is like he poked his head up out of the hole like, I got you. You need some more lapdogging? And there he goes off to Nebraska. I bet it wasn't even a direct flight. They gave him a layover because the RNC ain't going to spring for no perks for Lindsey Graham. Now, once the public got wind of what Lindsey had planned, I didn't think we would actually see him, admit to what he's doing. I thought he knew better and that he would go back into his hole. Oh no. He appeared on the Sunday shows.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina joins me now. Senator Graham, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much.
And they said it wouldn't last.
1 year in the chair. Thank you for being here.
And a 3.5-month-old.
That's
a lot going
right.
on in your house.
That's for sure.
All right, kudos to you, Lindsey Graham, for acknowledging her children, considering the way that your own party has dealt with your childlessness. I wasn't going to bring attention to it, but you just did, and J.D. Vance has forced that to become a key talking point. So, Lindsey, I gotta ask, do you have a stake in this country's future?
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Let's start talking about the embattled gubernatorial candidate in North Carolina, Mark Robinson. Of course, it's alleged that he put these posts up, very controversial, on a pornographic website. He says he didn't do it. Former President Donald Trump spoke yesterday in North Carolina, didn't mention him, has not dropped his endorsement. Senator, do you think that former President Trump should drop his endorsement of Mark Robinson?
I think what's going to happen here is that he deserves a chance to defend himself, Mark Robinson. The charges are beyond unnerving. If they're true, he's unfit to serve for office. If they're not true, he has the best lawsuit in the history of the country for libel. He's claiming they were artificially created and that CNN passed it along to be true. Has NBC confirmed this?
Not yet. We're all looking into it.
Well, so what I would do if I were him, I would hire me the best lawyer I could find. I'd sue the hell out of CNN because what they're saying about him is just unbelievable.
Actually, what they're saying about him is quite believable. That is pretty much why he has lost his entire staff. What they're saying about him is quite believable. In fact, that is why your prior assertion that if it's true that he's unfit is wild, because we already know what is definitely true about Mark Robinson, and he is so far over the line of unfit. I would say he's a whole plane flight from DC to Nebraska over the line of unfit before this happened. Also, do you realize the spot you just put Mark Robinson in by saying they should sue him for libel? Huh? Because when he doesn't, he's forced to sit at home as many soldiers having lost the election. You know, I mean, really, like, you're not supposed to say that, Lindsey. You know better than that.
Now, he needs to do more, in my view. He has a right to defend himself. He has an obligation to defend himself. This is hanging over his campaign.
No, I wouldn't say he has an obligation to defend himself. It was a possibility he could have just went, well, yeah, you know what? I told you I was a backslider. I mean, what y'all thought backsliding meant? Huh? You just thought I missed a couple Sundays? Huh? No, I missed a couple Septembers. That's how far my backsliding was. It was a couple years in the 70s I missed.
Trump won in 2016 and 2020 when the governor candidate lost both times. I don't think this hurts Trump, but as to Robinson, he's a political zombie if he does not offer a defense to this that's credible.
And if anybody knows how to defend themselves against this kind of salacious rumor, it is Lindsey Graham. Or should I say, you know what, I ain't even gonna say it. Because they not gonna get me with no libel. I saw they all deleted all them tweets. I see where you're going.
Senator, these allegations, this story came out on Friday. He has had multiple days to defend himself. He has not produced one shred of evidence. And as you know, he's had plenty of other highly controversial comments. Do you think he could cost Trump North Carolina?
No, I really don't, because Trump won when the governor candidate lost in 2016 and 2020. But here's what's important.
Here's what's important is the fact that the man who the presidential nominee has called Martin Luther King on steroids completely aired out his wife's sister and the security at HBCUs when it comes to children. And pizza. He aired all of those things out. I'll never think of any of them the same. Water towers, I'll never think of any of them the same. What is important is that the presidential nominee has dubbed a man Martin Luther King on steroids. We've now had this revealed about him. The nominee still hasn't backed away from him, and yet you assert that not even that would cost him the state. That is 2024.
I'm in South Carolina. I see the ads every 15 seconds. This is a major allegation by a major news organization that needs to be addressed. He has not only a right to defend himself, but an obligation to defend himself.
At the very least, should former President Trump pull his endorsement or make it clear that he's distancing himself?
I think what you're going to see happen here is Robinson's going to have to deal with it. There's nothing, no accusation involving Trump. It's all about Robinson. You asked a good question. Should every Republican in the country be held responsible for this guy? I would say no. It's him, not me. It's not Trump. He's the one that supposedly said these things. He has a right to defend himself. He needs to defend himself.
Okay, so you're not held responsible for Mark Robinson now, but does that mean you should be held responsible for Mark Robinson a week ago? Huh? So when he said that women want abortions because they can't keep their skirt down, like y'all But black people should pay reparations for slavery. Like y'all owning all that though, right? Yeah. Want to go back to a country where women couldn't vote? Y'all good to hold all those L's, huh?
All right, let's move on to some of your activity.
What kind of activity you talking about, huh? Because we just got out of that rabbit hole. I don't want to go back in that rabbit hole. Let's keep it clean now.
This week, you traveled to Nebraska, one of only two states that awards its electoral votes by congressional district instead of winner take all. Right. That, as you know, could be decisive in this election. It awarded Joe Biden, for example, one electoral vote in the Omaha area back in 2020. You met with state lawmakers to persuade them to change to a winner-take-all system. Right. Here's what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer had to say about this trip earlier this week.
Look, they're very worried about the election, as they should be. The American people every day see the contrast. They can't win legitimately, so they always try to change the rules at the last minute.
Senator, you've seen the results of our poll. Can Donald Trump win if you don't change the rules in Nebraska?
This is really, number one, 65% of the people in your poll say the country's on the wrong track. Who's best able to solve the crime problem? Trump by 6. Who's best on the economy? Trump by 9. Inflation, Trump by 8. Border, Trump by 21. So what did I get out of this poll?
Apparently you got out of it a plane ticket to Nebraska. That's apparently what you got out of that poll, because if you believe those things, you wouldn't have had a need to take your behind to the cornstalks and try and get them to change the rules. That would have looked bad and would have been completely unnecessary if even you believe that poll. That is just plain logic. Your spin?
On the things that matter most to the American people, Trump is winning decisively. In a head-to-head, he is not. Now I know why the Teamsters voted the way they did. The Teamsters have endorsed every Democratic candidate for president for the last 30 years except Harris. They must believe, like the American people, she is not good on the issues that matter most to the Teamsters. That's the only explanation.
Okay, I got it. So instead of letting them vote what they believe, you want to manipulate the system to reflect what you think they believe. Am I getting your drift? A system, mind you, that's already manipulated in your favor.
She lost the endorsement of the Teamsters for the first time in 30 years. Why? Because she's bad on the issues they care about.
Given what you're saying, though, if she's not good on these issues, why do you need to change the rules in Nebraska?
Because I'm visibly engaging in behavior that only mini soldier could describe. That's what you're seeing in real time.
I think Nebraska has been talking about this for years. It is a very close election. 63 days ago, Chuck Schumer led a coup to overthrow Joe Biden, and he's telling me or any other Republican what we should be doing. If they change the law in Nebraska, it won't be on the phone in the middle of the night. It will be through a democratic process. The entire federal delegation of Nebraska, House members and 2 senators, want this change. To my friends in Nebraska, that one electoral vote could be the difference between Harris being president or not, and she's a disaster for Nebraska and the world.
I hear you calling it a coup. Of course, Democrats have the right to change who's at the top
so
of their
does,
ticket.
So does Nebraska.
Okay, so I understand. So this was something that they have wanted for the longest time, and they just haven't done it. What? Because they wanted to run on it? Is that it? They just are you telling Nebraska what they want in the same way that you told the Teamsters what they want? Like you get to tell people what they. Okay, I got it. Huh? It is really curious why your trajectory has stalled politically after 2016. You know, just given your ability to tell the future and what everybody wants. And I'll give you a point, Kristen Welker, for cleaning up that point he made about the coup to overthrow Biden. And then take that point right back for just letting him openly say that she's a disaster with no pushback. Yeah, has been a long year.
What do you think the chances are? What's the over-under that this change actually happens in Nebraska?
50-50, down to 2 people.
Down to 2 people. Huh. You want to name names? So I have a feeling they might be appearing in some surveillance footage soon.
Let's talk about another headline this week. Donald Trump was speaking at an Israeli-American Council event. He did make waves because he seemed to suggest that Jewish voters would be to blame if he doesn't win the election, Senator. Listen to what he said.
If I don't win this election, and the Jewish people would really have a lot to do with that if that happens, because at 40%, that means 60% of the people are voting for the enemy.
What is the state of journalism today? My goodness. He didn't seem to suggest that. He said it. He didn't seem to suggest a damn thing. He said it. So what we essentially have here is a recovering from Donald Trump support group. Move on.
The second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, said those comments were trafficking in tropes, scapegoating Jews. Is he right? How do you respond?
I would tell President Trump that the Jewish American voter is probably concerned about the same thing that all other voters are to the Democratic Party. Why are you losing African American men?
Did you just say that if I were a Jewish voter, I would be concerned at why the Democrats are losing African American men? You're really not good at this. Like, really not good. Like, I talk a lot of trash about Byron Donalds, but his BS be way more seasoned than this.
Why are you losing ground with minorities? Rather than blaming them, you ought to convince them to vote for Vice President Harris. My advice to President Trump is that the Jewish American voter, I'm sure they do care about Israel. There's been no better friend of Israel. But talk about crime, talk about the economy, talk about inflation, talk about border. That's the way you persuade people in this country. We have an obligation to persuade people to vote for us.
Ah, yes. And that obligation comes as an add-on in a Southwest flight from National Airport to Lincoln, Nebraska. Okay, I got it. That's an add-on. It comes with your free luggage. Is that obligation. Somehow it must have gotten lost, though, by the time he got there, because all of a sudden the will of the people was gone.
Very quickly on Ukraine, at the debate last week, Donald Trump was asked if he wants Ukraine to win the war, repeatedly pressed on this. He did not answer. What message does that send to Vladimir Putin that he couldn't say, yes, I want Ukraine to win?
What does winning look like? Here's what I think will happen if President Trump wins. He will end this war. The biggest mistake the Biden administration has made stopping natural gas exports to Europe. They were against the Keystone Pipeline, Harris, and for the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Senator, quickly, because we're almost out of time, does it concern you that he can't just say, yes, I want to see Ukraine win? Does that not send a mixed message to Putin?
That Ukraine was invaded on Biden's watch. It concerns me that Iran's running wild on Biden's watch. It didn't happen on Trump's watch. Harris and Biden are a disaster. Ukraine was invaded by Russia. Iran is running wild, wreaking havoc. So, no, I am confident Donald Trump will change things. If you want the world to change and you elect Harris, nothing's going to change.
Were you happy with that answer, Senator? Were you happy with that answer?
I think he has to be happy with that answer. I think that was all the energy that he had left. You just saw a man run out of gas live on air. That was sad. That was like watching a dancer quit on stage, which actually, that was exactly like watching a dancer quit on stage. Yeah. Gave me a little deja vu. As far as the substance to what he said, man, it is really too bad that we don't have an actual record of Donald Trump's to look at. Like, it's really crazy. I kind of wish he had been president, and then we could see exactly not only how he handled himself and how he conducted himself, but what the people that were there and around him thought and felt about how he handled it and how he conducted himself. That is wild. It's just really unfair, because we got all this record for Harris being vice president, And then Trump just came from the outside, really. I don't know what he's been doing for the last 8 years.
I'm okay with the answer of not telling what winning looks like. I am confident he will not reward Putin. But here's what I would say to the American people. If you think we're on the wrong track, you're right. If you think Kamala Harris is going to change things, you're wrong. She has her fingerprints on Afghanistan. She said on the sideline, she boycotted Bibi's speech. The Iranians see her as weak. The Russians see her as weak. Do you think it's an accident the world's on fire, the border is broken, inflation is through the roof? She's not going to change things. She's going to make things worse, and that's what our poll shows.
Yes, the longtime politician to tell us how much, in fact, change is needed. And by the way, South Carolina, change is definitely needed. And I see you, Texas, with Ted Cruz. Yeah, I see you. Keep doing your thing. I would also like to assert that was no less than 4 times during that interview that he proclaimed what you think. He knows better than you know, which is exactly why they're trying to take the people of Nebraska's vote away. And that doesn't stop in Nebraska. It didn't start in Nebraska. It won't end in Nebraska. Keep your eyes open. As for you, Lindsey Graham, I just can't really take you seriously as somebody with no stake in our country's future. That wasn't an issue for me, but J.D. Vance just made some great points with his assertions, especially with regards to the party that you have seemingly found a home in. To co-sign all of that nonsense and not call it out, and to move forward and carry their water is a level of shamelessness that can only be seen in the Nude Africa message boards. I'm starting to wonder, Lindsey Graham, who Mini Soldier was talking to. Oh, would you look at that? It looks like the Republican effort to steal Nebraska's electoral votes has failed after GOP Senator, yes, that's GOP Senator Mike McDonald of Omaha said in a statement he opposes awarding Nebraska's 5 electoral votes on a winner-take-all basis like 48 other states do. He also said the idea that we would try and change the way we do things this close to an election is loserdom. Okay, he didn't actually say that, but he should have. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I especially want to thank those of you that have been emailing me at reese@reesewaters.com. I do look at it, and I wanted to say I've taken a number of suggestions. Just in the past week, I think half the videos were suggested from emails that I received from you guys, so keep them coming. And just because I may not be able to respond doesn't mean that I don't see it, and it doesn't mean that it's not impactful, because the email and the feedback that I get from you guys shapes my perception of the people that are consuming my content. So it really does impact the direction that we take moving forward. So just because I may not respond to your email doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. So thank you guys very much. Of course, we have the website, reesewaters.com. There's some new merch on the website as well, so be on the lookout for that. And by the way, if you get some merch, if you get a shirt or hat or whatever the case may be, send me a photo of yourself with it. Maybe put in the title merch pick or something like. I could think of a way better subject title. Those of you that have signed up for my newsletter, use the portal on my website. I appreciate you guys for doing that. There'll be a new newsletter that is going out shortly, and in it will be updates on channel membership. That's right, something that you guys have been mentioning to me for a long time. We're finally on the precipice of it, so you can get all the details and the membership. Again, you can sign up on my website or send me an email at reese@reesewaters.com. There is so much on the horizon, and I, for one, am extremely grateful that you're along with me on this ride.